Good evening, everyone. Good evening. My name is Siobhan. Thank you so much for joining the Homeownership Made Easy 3-day virtual challenge. Today is day one, and I'm so excited. This has been a long time coming. The last time I did this was over a year ago, where we did it 5 days. And so this time I decided to condense it a little bit, give you guys a break. So we got lots of work in store for us. So let's get started. First, I want to start by saying congratulations. I love, love, love when I see people raise their hand and know and put themselves first so that they can gather all the information that they need in order to make the change that they desire. And so I found this quote online that says, an investment in knowledge pays the best interest. And this was by Benjamin Franklin. Listen, what you learn today, what you go through today, no one can take it from you, but I want you to count it as the first or the next block towards you building your dream of home ownership. All right, let's get started. So just a little bit about me. For those who don't know me, as I mentioned, there's quite a few new faces. I am a mom to this little guy here who's not so little anymore. He just turned 10 last month, so we're in the fields a little bit, okay? We're adjusting to the double-digit life. But I am a mortgage broker. As you see, personally, let me talk about me personally first. I'm a Jesus girl. I love the Lord. He is who keeps me every single day. Had it not been for him, I can guarantee you I would not be here. I am a daughter, eldest of 3 children. I'm a sister, an auntie. I have nieces and nephews. I'm also a godmama to 10 beautiful children. And of course, as I mentioned, I'm a mom of one who is 10. We call him Prince Tay. Acceptable when he's in the mood. Sometimes we just have to call him Tay. Professionally, as I mentioned, I'm a mortgage broker, but I'm actually a serial entrepreneur. I have a few businesses, but I've been a mortgage broker for almost 22 years. I'm also a licensed life insurance agent because what I've learned through my years of working as a mortgage broker is that having people having discussions with people about purchasing real estate, which is the largest investment they'll probably ever make, I need to do a little bit more. I need to have that holistic financial conversation with them. So not only them to purchase property, but I also want them to protect anything that they do purchase, right? I'm also an author. A few years back, I co-authored a book titled 13 Seats, The Women Who Dare to Testify. And in my chapter, I share my journey about motherhood, my journey to motherhood, rather, because yeah, it has been a definite transformation of my life, and I give God all the glory for it. I do have a few copies, so if you're interested, just hit me up and I will definitely get one to you. I've been speaking as well over the last few years, and I'm also a financial educator, all things finance, because I realized that through my own experience, my own upbringing, then of course going um, through school, not knowing about money, going through student loan debts, then entering into the industry and just learning how people have struggled with their finances because of lack of education, because of lack of knowledge. As I mentioned, that working with clients and helping them to absorb or take on this large debt, but not having any financial literacy. So I do advocate for financial literacy in everything that I do. All right. All right, how did it all get started? How did I get here? Why is Siobhan talking about home ownership and investing? Well, it started when I was 23 years old. I decided that I was ready to leave my mom's house because I had enough. I had enough. And I just knew that I wanted to move, but didn't know what my options were. And so through having conversation, I really was given a choice. Do I want to move and pay someone else, or move and pay myself? And so that seemed pretty black and white, right? So I decided that I was going to pay myself. I had zero knowledge about the industry. I just knew that there was an investment required from me. I had to sign papers at the bank, and then I went to the lawyers to pick up my key. It was literally that simple. And that was because I used a mortgage agent at the time that really made the experience very, very stress-free. So I'm grateful for that. But 2 years after I had purchased my property, I found myself in a space where I was very unhappy at the job that I was working at. See, my goal back then was to actually become a customs officer or an immigration officer. And I was making my journey to that position. And in the process, I just realized like the 9 to 5 thing just wasn't for me. Like I was not happy being told I had to be somewhere at a certain time. I had to leave a certain time. I could take breaks when they said I could take breaks. I could take vacation only when they approved. It just wasn't for me. I was very unhappy. But of course, I was a homeowner. I had financial responsibilities I had to be taken care of. So of course, you do what you got to do. But an opportunity literally fell in my lap. I was connected with somebody who my mom knew from years ago. And at the time, she was building her team. And literally, my mom just like, well, I spoke to her and she said, she just wants to build teams that we should come and see her. So she didn't go. I actually went and found out that she was actually building a mortgage brokerage. And so I was like, say no more. I quit my job the next day and I haven't looked back. It's been very rewarding. It's been very draining at times. It's been very it's pressure. There's been a lot of pressure because I I want everyone to get into homeownership because I know what homeownership can do. But then of course when we're working against governmental changes, qualifying criteria, all of that, it is very, very it can be very stressful because I can't do as much as I want to do because of where people are. So I love the industry nonetheless, and that's why I'm here. I'm here to just spread the information, help as many people as I can, because I know that investing in real estate can change your family's life forever. All right. And so I'm on a mission to help through education and empowerment 1,000 mothers nationwide. And so I know everybody here may not be a mom, but know that you being here is contributing to the mission. And so I'm truly grateful because I do believe with the right financial education, access to the resources and opportunities, that homeownership is definitely possible. And so sometimes we might have to shift our perspective and maybe even our initial goals or long-term goals. But real estate is something that will forever, if done right, will give you a return on your investment. And so I want to be a part of that transformation. So thank you for being here. So let's get started. So over the next 3 days, we're going to be talking about, today, for one, we're going to be talking about the current market woes, get those out of the way. I'm not a negative Nancy. I don't like the doom and gloom. And that's pretty much what's out there in the media channels talking about the real estate industry. But what they're not telling you is that even though housing sales may have slowed down, they haven't stopped. And that's one thing with real estate. Real estate has never stopped. All right. People are always going to buy. So we're going to get the market out of the way. And we're also going to talk about mindset. Homeownership, ownership requires a different level of mindset. And so we're going to go through, very surface, where you need to identify as where you are and what you need to shift to in order to begin your journey and to become successful as a real estate investor. All right. Day 2, we're going to be talking about knowing your numbers and affordability. So as much as I'm an advocate for ownership and investing, if it doesn't make sense, it won't make you dollars. You got to know your numbers, and you got to know all your numbers. It's not just about how much down payment do you need and how much is the mortgage going to be. It's about your entire lifestyle, because as a mortgage broker, in terms of qualifying you, I don't factor in a lot of the expenses that you incur through your day-to-day living. And so that can impact what your affordability is. You may qualify for a certain amount of mortgage money, but you may not be able to afford that. So we're going to talk through that on day 2. And day 3, we're going to talk about credit, because that is one of the key pillars in purchasing real estate. OPM, other people's money. And so they look at your credit. So you want to make sure that your credit is at a certain stage where you can leverage and have access to the best and most affordable products available to you so that you can build your portfolio, and also debt payment. Debt has been so normalized that it truly is taking away from a large part of our community's ability to even get into the market. So understanding how debt can hurt you, but also how it can help you is what we're going to talk about on day 3. All right. So let's just address the elephant in the room, because we know, as I mentioned earlier, that the media is truly like that. What do you call it? Like, I want to say a sore thumb, because what is a sore thumb? I don't know what the sore thumb is, but the media just if you have a cut and they just kind of just keep grinding it and making sure that it hurts. And so yes, we know that our economy is struggling right now. We're recovering from what happened over the last 2 years. I mean, we've been in a pandemic that we've never experienced before, right? But the media does what the media does. And so the biggest question is now the right time to buy? And so, yeah, let's go through it. Let's address it. First things first, I want you to know and understand that real estate investing is a long-term game. It's not a quick fix. It's not, mind you, once you get to a certain level in your investing career, yeah, you can do quick flicks. You can figure out short ways that you can capitalize on your investments. But when you're just getting in, you need to think long term. All right. Your first property will probably be the hardest property that you work towards, or or the hardest property for you to get. But once you get your first one, that is the right one, then it's smooth sailing from there, so to speak, right? Because your property starts to do most of the work. You won't have to save up all that down payment on your own. Your property will appreciate, you will reduce your debt, and then you have equity that you can leverage. So I want you to think long term, because real estate has proven to be the best performing asset over time. If you look at the chart on the left side of the screen, this is something I found on Instagram thanks to homing.ca. It's a comparison. I think a few years ago there was this 10-year challenge that people were doing on social media. They're posting a picture of themselves 10 years before and then a current picture, right? And doing the 10-year challenge. Well, this is kind of like the same thing. So this describes, or lists out what housing prices were like for different types of property back in 2013, and the list of what the prices are like here in 2020. And you see that the pricing has pretty much doubled in 10 years. And if you look at historical data, real estate is something that has done that. Every 10 years, it has pretty much doubled in value. So if you bought 20 years ago, you essentially have quadrupled your profit, right? If you've kept that one property per se. And so real estate, as I said, is a long-term game. And so wherever you get in, know that your property, as long as it's purchased in the right space, it will appreciate. Property is something that is tangible, right? So whatever you invest in, wherever you invest in it, your money has the potential to grow. All right. And so the other elephant, which wasn't in the picture because there was only one, but here's the other elephant: interest rates. And so again, the media, Bank of Canada is continuously increasing rates. And they have, over the last 12, 13 months, they have increased the bank lending rate by almost 4.25% over the last year, which is something that they've never, ever done. And I think we have a full understanding as to why this has to happen, because of the spike that we experienced in 2020, 2021, right? So they have to kind of like slow down the train. And so, yes, interest rates are increasing, but when you really look back, where we are today with rates are not too far from where we were before the pandemic. Okay. So what they're doing although it is costing people who mainly are in variable mortgages, which means are adjustable mortgages, that payments change every time the Bank of Canada changes their rate. But if you're in a fixed rate, and depending on when you bought, you may be, unscathed by this increase. But if you are in a fixed term, and you have come up for renewal over the last year or so, yes, your interest rates have definitely increased. But the bonus with buying property or buying property in Canada is that when you do mortgage, we have mortgage options. We have short terms, we have medium length terms, we have long-term terms, right? So depending on where the market is at the time that you're buying, you have a little bit of flexibility where you can secure yourself for shorter periods of time, even if the rates are a little bit higher. And then come your renewal, you have the option to change your product or refinance or sell your property. In comparison to our sister country down south, where their terms are only in 15 and 20 years. So if you are paying, at peak rates and you buy a house now, you're stuck with that essentially for, at 15, 30 years. If you keep it, you do have the option to refinance it, but then you're subject to penalties and so forth. So it's almost like a catch-22 where housing prices have increased, but have now, as I'm going to slip to the next slide, have started to decrease, right? Over the last year, housing prices have decreased about 20 to 30% in some areas across Canada. But the truth of the matter is, those housing prices that we were experiencing back in March, those were because of supply and demand issues. So there's always something that triggers something, right? And so these housing prices were very, very high because of the competition. Interest rates were super duper low, right? People could get mortgages at 1.5%, 1.25%, which is pretty much free. So why wouldn't you want to buy a property if you can afford to? But then, because the housing rates were so low and people were now competing for the houses that were on the market, the competition started because there was more buyers than there were sellers. And so that's what drove up the housing prices. And so here we are, Bank of Canada stepped in and did what they had to do. And so now essentially our market is correcting itself. So as housing prices are decreasing, variable interest rates are still increasing. However, fixed rates have started to decrease. So long answer cut short. Is it a good time to buy? Yes. But I always say it always depends on your affordability. Real estate, you can never fail with real estate. But it's always best to buy at a lower price with a higher interest rate, as I mentioned before, because we have shorter terms that you can leverage the discounted properties, essentially, the properties that are on sale, and also take a short-term higher rate and then renegotiate at the end of your term. So yes, it's a good time to buy. Why is it a good time to buy real estate? Because real estate has proven itself time and time and time and time and time again. The strategy has never changed. Real estate provides shelter because everyone needs somewhere to live. Real estate forces you to save because every month or every bi-weekly that you make a payment, you're not only paying your mortgage or paying back your loan, you're paying yourself. A portion of that payment goes to you. You're paying down your principal, right? And so as you are paying yourself, your money essentially is working for you because your balance is reducing, your property is appreciating, and the spread is getting greater. So you're building equity, right? When you're investing in real estate, it allows your money to grow faster. So if you invest $25,000, $30,000 as a down payment in property, it's going to become a lot faster than if you had put that money in a savings account at the bank. Okay. Real estate, as I mentioned before, again, it's very, very secure. It's the most secure investment because when you buy a property, you have the property, right? If you buy another type of investment or you invest in another type of investment, you don't even have a paper these days. Everything is digital, right? You have it on an app. But when you buy real estate, you can touch it, feel it, smell it. You can do whatever you want with it. It's tangible. And it's also a legacy building tool, right? You can use it for the time that you need it. You can keep it, leverage it, and then pass it on to your children, right? So real estate wins over and over and over again because of the type of security that it offers. All right, so let's do a temperature check. What has been your biggest obstacle or barrier that has kept you from becoming a homeowner so far? Family, credit, down payment, credit, all things I'm very, very familiar with. Thank you for sharing. Because in my experience, the two most common things that I've realized that have impacted the decision to buy is money and mindset. Money, you don't have enough, you don't make enough. What you have is not enough to get you what you want. And then mindset, fear. I saw somebody say they're afraid of taking on that big debt. Well, we know that fear is definitely not from yeah, let me not preach to you today. But those it's a real thing. I understand that, but I truly believe that when you change the way you look at things, things begin to change. And so, as I mentioned before, with real estate, everybody needs somewhere to live. And so if you can make that commitment to yourself and pay for your current shelter, you will make the exact same commitment to pay for your home. Right? It always, as I said, it always boils down to affordability. As long as you're purchasing something that you can afford, then that's where you'll have the mindset shift. All right. So I want you to know that real estate is a business. Real estate is a business. It took me years to figure this out because most of us go into real estate. It's like, I want to buy my house, right? To have some sort of ownership, but we don't really have ownership. A lot of people purchase property, but then still kind of just live in survival mode. They purchase and then they only have enough to pay the bills. They're not actually leveraging their property to do what real estate is supposed to do. So when you buy real estate, you also have to adapt a mindset shift. And so that is from being a consumer to a producer. What is a consumer versus a producer? A consumer makes their buying decisions based off of emotions and gathering and collecting of things. I want to own a house. I want a new car. I want the new iPhone, right? That's a consumer. But a producer, their main objective in their business life and probably in their overall life is assets over liabilities. They want to own things versus owe things. Ownership over owing things, right? Assets over liabilities. So anything that they buy or they use their money for, they need to be able to project some form of ROI, which is a return on their investment. If I spend this money, how much can I make? What am I getting back from this? And it has nothing to do with emotions. Yes, they may like it or feel like they want something. They're buying something that's going to give them some form of social satisfaction. However, there's always a financial tie to it, right? A lot of producers, ownership mindset people, investors, they will buy income producing assets that give them a cash flow that will pay for the things that they like the new iPhone or the new pair of shoes. Like that's what they'll do. They'll make their assets pay for their lifestyle. And so that should be the goal. And so that's going to take a mindset shift because that is something that many of us haven't even adapted or understand to even be able to comprehend and then make the shift on our own. So I'm hoping that this will give you some form of awareness to just kind of do some assessing of your own money management and mindset. Because as you embark on this journey, it's imperative for you to know where you are so that you can make the changes so that you can shift. Because as I said, ownership, real estate is a business. And so the goal isn't to just buy a property to live in. The goal is to buy properties so that you can make money off of them, right? Leverage them, leverage their equity, let them pay for you and pay for other things. So knowing where you are, making the adjustments, and then you're able to shift and grow from there. So I have a question for you. Who was or is your biggest influencer in the type of mindset that you've created this far? My mom, my dad. Yep. Very familiar. Your friend. That's great. It's always great to have a circle of people who can stretch your mind, right? Challenge the way you currently think to help you shift into a different direction. So that's amazing. No one. Yep. Your dad. Very, very familiar with all of these answers. Very familiar. Myself, as I said, being the eldest of 3, my mom had me very young. So she had 0 experience with money, but she was my non-teacher, but essentially my teacher. So I literally had to learn about money through working in the industry. And so the truth is, for most of us, our mindset was curated by our parents and society, beginning with school. I have never taken a financial class in any of my programming, not in elementary school, not in high school, not in college. No one taught me about money, but they did give me a student loan. They told me how many years it would take me to pay it off. I don't even think they told me the interest rate. They probably did, but I don't remember. Right? Those aren't conversations that they have with you. They just put you into the debt world, right? That system, go to school, finish, work on your pension, like it's just a broken system. But here's something that I want to expose you to. It's important information that we know that the schools do not teach, as I can confess from my own experience. And so therefore we know that they're not going to teach our children. So we really have to go the extra mile and unlearn some of the consumer habits that we've developed over time and replace them with producer habits. And so if anyone has heard of the cash flow quadrant, let me know in the chat. Yep, Rich Dad Poor Dad. That's right. That's right. So this was from a book that called Cash Flow Quadrant, written by Robert Kiyosaki, who is a real estate guru in America, who wrote the book Rich Dad Poor Dad, where he talks about his 2 dads, his rich dad, which I believe is not his biological dad, and his poor dad was his biological dad. So his poor dad taught him to go to school, get the job, pay into your pension for 40 years, and then retire, live off your pension. But his rich dad taught him about investing in real estate and buying income producing assets that will pay you to live your life, essentially creating your own pension plan. And so that's the route that he went, and he's like a multi-millionaire via real estate, and of course now evolving to other things as well. And so if you look at this quadrant, it says 4 ways to produce income, right? Remember that producer mindset. So on the left side, you'll see you have an employee, you have self-employed. On the left side, 95% of the population owns 5% of the world's wealth. 95% of the population owns 5% of the world's wealth. And now when you look on the right side of the quadrant, business owner, you have business owner and you have investor. 95% of the world's wealth is owned by the right side, and only 5% of the population works for or works in that, right? So this just kind of gives you, you kind of go from top right, top left, bottom right, and the goal is to go shift from bottom left to top right and then down to investor. So for many, as I said, we follow the traditional system. We go to school, we get a job, right? So we have a job and we try to make dreams, our dreams come true with very limited resources. But then you have some people like, oh, I don't want a job, but I want to be able to dictate um my own value, my own income. And so they start a business. But what happens is they become a one-man show or one-woman show. And essentially they just own their job, because without them, they're not making any money. They still are dependent on themselves to earn an income, right? So essentially they own their job. They are self-employed. Now, when you shift over to the right side, become a business owner, and now business owner meaning you've created systems, right? You have employees, you're hiring, meaning you're sharing the wealth that you're generating from your business. You have a system, right? You're working, you're not relying on that. That means your business can operate without you actually being there, right? And so once you've evolved from there, you've created systems, you've leveraged enough, you've grown, then you use that money, your profits, and you invest it in different things, and you start living off of your profits. You own investments, you own properties, you own businesses, you own piece of other people's businesses, you own stocks, you own everything, all other things that will make your money work harder than you have to work. And so again, it's a process. I'm really not doing it justice here, but I just wanted to give you a different perspective of where you are. And as you shift into the investor mindset, the producer mindset, the ownership mindset, know that you'll have to manage your capital a little bit different in order to shift and grow. All right. Doing things from the employee quad is not impossible, but it's also a lot harder. Okay. And so again, if we change our mindset, we change our money. When you change the way you look at things, things begin to change. So I want you to decide today that you are an investor. It doesn't matter where you are in the journey. This could be your first information session. This can be your 10th information session. You've already made 1 to 10 steps towards where you want to go, right? But you have to believe it. You have to declare it, right? So you are an investor and you're ready to build assets, not liabilities. And so I don't know if I had mentioned it earlier, but we're going to be here for 3 days. We're going to do some work. So I just want to go over some homework for you today. And so you can take some time tonight or by tomorrow. Tomorrow we'll be back at 7:30. So I want you to take a little time for yourself, reflect about the conversation we had today, and just really be honest with yourself. And think about your mindset. Are you in the consumer? Are you shifting to the producer? What do you have to do? Are you really ready to make this investment? Right? And be honest with yourself. This is for you. And the answer can be no, but then you also have to identify what it is that you need to do to change. I know some of you mentioned, you're working on your credit, you're saving up your down payment. Those are great. But also, as you do that, make sure that when you're operating on a daily basis, you're operating from an investor mindset or ownership mindset and not in the consumer mindset. Because a lot of us have been so conditioned that we say things, but our actions look different. All right. Number 2, I want you to write out your why. Make sure that you're buying your goal to buy real estate is for the right reason. And I know that might sound like, what are you talking about, Siobhan? But it's a very, very, very big investment. And if not calculated, if not intentionally, if not actively pursued correctly, you will truly not benefit from the power of real estate. And so that's why I say I mean, you may know your why because you just want to buy, you want to build, wealth for your family, but really be clear on why that is, right? And then you're going to determine when. When is that going to happen? You're going to ask yourself with who, or be clear with who. That could be a partner, that could be a friend, it could be a sibling, with your children, right? What do you want? I want you to make a list, like a house or your first house checklist or your first property checklist. It could be a home that you live in by yourself or for yourself. It could be a home that you invest in to rent out. It could be a partnership. Um, I want you to list out everything. Where will it be? What type of house? How many rooms will it have? What are your expectations in terms of the neighborhood? Schools, if you have children, like be specific with what it is you want, right? Because as you shift, right, you're putting all these pieces into place. And I'm telling you, this is what will help you expedite the process. All right. Your why, when, who, what, and then lastly, who is depending on you? That could be, of course, your children. That could be maybe you have aging parents. That could really be you. Write that out. And then lastly, I want you to write a declaration. You have to own this. I am so happy and so grateful now that it is, select your date, December 15th, 2024. And I have purchased my first semi-detached home in Oakville with a 2-car garage and gravel or paved drive, like whatever, right? Be clear, write it out. There is power in our words. And when you speak these things, and then you couple it with the next step is you're going to affirm it daily. You're going to write it in your notebook, your home ownership book, your goal book, your manifestation book, whatever it is that you choose to do. Write it out daily and affirm it. Constantly speak to yourself about this goal because it's going to take, especially if you are at a state where you feel like you have a lot of work to do, it's very, very, very easy to lose hope in the process. So you have to be intentional with keeping your mindset connected to that goal. I've had clients, they've done vision boards. If we'll talk about tomorrow, like my coaching program, I encourage my moms to go to open houses, see what's out there, visualize, take your children, make your list, like do all of that. Connect yourself to the goal. All right. And so if you're bold enough, once you've done your homework, you take a quick picture and post it on IG or on TikTok, wherever you found me, and tag me so that I can see, or we can talk about it tomorrow. But I would really like if you share it on social so I can see. But yeah, this is it. This wraps up day 1 of the Homeownership Made Easy 3-day challenge. I am so excited for you guys. This is, once you get your mind right, everything else will fall into place. Get your mind right, get your numbers right, and then it's smooth sailing from there, I believe. All right. So if there's no questions, I will wrap it up here. Thank you. As I said, tomorrow we'll be back and we will talk about the numbers. The numbers are so important. Not only your budget, but your affordability. And then, of course, on Thursday, we will come back and talk about credit and debt. All right. And if you haven't connected with me yet, please connect with me on social. I have recommitted myself to showing up more consistently online. I actually forgot to add my TikTok page because I'm now on TikTok, just kind of testing the waters over there. It's a little bit different, but I'm gonna do it. So if you're not following me, please connect with me. And yeah, let's get social. All right. Thank you so much. Again, my name is Siobhan Bent, mom, mortgage broker, and legacy coach. And I'm super excited to be going through this journey with you to you becoming a homeowner. You have yourselves a great evening. Bye-bye.